Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining me once again for one of these Magic the Gathering openings. This time here, we're going to be doing a bit of a review. Now, what could be reviewing, we say? Well, I would say something marvelous. Not just marvelous, something that is fantastic. And what we're doing is we're just going to take all of these and we're going to assemble them all together to make sure that no doom prevails and that we will make sure that we come together and we make sure that peace prevails forever. That is right. Marvel Superheroes packs are coming out. Starting up, we've got the Commander decks coming out first, so we are going to be taking a quick peek into those while I'm waiting for my packs to arrive to be able to do any openings on them. But isn't this exciting? You know, we've been a little bit dry in terms of the Commander decks that we've been getting recently because, you know, Strixhaven, we got our 5, one for each of the sets, but prior to that, it's like, okay, we are going to be getting TMNT, where we got one 5-color deck. And then prior to that, we had the Lorwyn, which had 2 decks. And prior to that, we had our Avatar: The Last Airbender with 0 decks. So it's been a little bit of a drought in terms of Commander decks. Strixhaven, Secrets of Strixhaven came around, gave us a couple of extras there. We got our full 5, which could potentially be considered the yearly Commander deck, because there's usually one that brings a whole lot together. So this might be another one there where, hey, we're coming around, we get our 4 different decks there. Not perfectly symmetrical, as we've got 1 2-color, we got 2 3-colors, and we got 1 4-color. Only one of them is like a villain deck that has actual black in it, and all of the other ones have white in it there. So, a little bit off balance in terms of just colors, but we want to take a peek in and look at all of these. So, why don't we start off here with a little bit of Wakanda Forever, with a little bit of Black Panther, King T'Challa, and, pay homage to Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of him in the movies. So why don't we take a peek in here real quick, because we did get a Captain America Ibambe, the creed of the attack that they did and that we saw in the movies as well. But we did get a T'Challa, and we did get, Black Panther, and we got a Captain America in that secret lair that came out a couple years back. So it looks like we're going to have T'Challa as well as Shuri as our 2 titular characters that are going to show it off. So what does this deck have in store? Because I have, like with all of them, tried to abstain from as many spoilers as I possibly can so that I would be able to just enjoy whatever came around. And it looks like the perforations did not fully go through here, so I just barely was able to get through them. As always, it seems like there's at least one that'll give me a lot of troubles in opening it up. There we go. Finally. All right, a little bit messier than I expected, but at least it's open for us. So, let's start off with our titular character, T'Challa the Black Panther. So, 1, a green and white for a 2/2 legendary human noble hero with whenever T'Challa enters or attacks, you create a tapped Vibranium token. It's an artifact with indestructible and can tap for adding a colorless, but that mana can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. So likely deck heavily based around artifacts. If not, then those Vibranium tokens not really going to be doing all that much. Unless you're trying to use them as some sort of sacrifice fodder, if you've got some sort of artifact sacking spell, some benefit for that. But whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana of 4 or greater, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on T'Challa. So in this particular case, You're making a whole bunch of those vibranium tokens so that you can cast your bigger artifacts to make him bigger. Honestly, I think it's a little bit of more of a basic type of ability, not something that I would have expected from this. Honestly, probably would have thought there might be a little bit more to it than just this. But it looks like we're not even going to get started with Shuri yet. It looks like we're just starting off with T'Challa there, and we'll get to her later on. We're getting Dora Milaje Elite, 1 and a white for a 2/2, a human warrior with first strike that when this ETBs, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you create a tapped vibranium token. So a little bit of that white catch-up mechanic, but instead of getting more lands, you just get a vibranium token. And you can sack this creature, and legendary permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Makes a whole lot of sense. You know, they will die for their liege and for the families there. So I think that is an incredibly flavorful ability that they have there. And being an elite strike force, having first strike makes sense of having trained a whole lot. And it looks like we're also getting a little bit of a legendary creature here. Everett K. Ross, Hapless Attaché. 2 and a white for a 1/3 legendary human advisor. With commander creatures you control, get +1/+1 and have lifelink. And whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, you draw a card. So it's got a little bit of that Mangara effect with the attacking you with 2 or more creatures, you get to draw a card. But, you know, given a little bit of extra bonus to commander creatures is nice. So could be good in ones where you've got partner, or if you're able to steal your opponent's commander creatures, they also get +1/+1 and lifelink as long as it's under your control. Okay. Hatut Zeraze Strike Force. 3 and a white for a 2/2 human spy warrior. When you cast a spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. And when this creature ETBs, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Okay, so a little bit of artifact enchantment hate in white. We do like to see that. It's on a creature, which is even nicer. But being able to copy this multiple times for whenever you've cast your commander is nice. So even if you've even brought your commander out once, this copies itself once, and you get to destroy 2 artifacts or enchantments. Honestly, pretty nice. You know, the more times that it takes to cast your commander, the more mana it's going to take. So at some point here, you know, you don't want to necessarily wait for like 4 or 5 times that you've played your commander, because even T'Challa, who is 3 mana, if I remember correctly, yep, 3 mana, at that point there, you know, after you've cast it 4 times, that means that you've paid the commander tax 3 times. That's an extra 6, so it was 9 mana to cast it. Okay. Quite a bit, but yeah, you know, getting a little bit of extra benefit from that is nice. King Solomon's Frogs. Okay, I don't know much about individual Marvel stuff, so I guess that this one must be important because it's legendary. 3 and a white for a legendary artifact with flash. When this ETBs, if you cast it, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target permanent that player controls with mana value 3 or greater. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller draws a card. Okay, so a little bit equivalent to a multi-person Swords to Plowshares type of effect, where instead of getting a basic land from their deck, they just draw a card to replace something. Now, the big thing is it's any permanent, so enchantment, artifact, creature, planeswalker, you know, whatever is giving you the most trouble on the board with it. As long as it's 3 mana or more, exile it, and all they do is get to get a card, draw a card in return. You know, it's not like Swords to Plowshares where it goes onto the field. Now, or no, that's Path to Exile. Swords to Plowshares gives you give your opponent life based off of the thing that you exile. But you can also pay 3 and tap this to exile it so that you can become the Monarch. Okay, so you can introduce the Monarch pretty easily with this as well. That's also really nice. Honestly, I think it's a good removal spell. Being able to flash it out, instant speed removal that you can then later on get rid of to become the Monarch whenever you want to. Whether you've already brought the Monarch into play or not is pretty good. I'll take it. Midnight Angel Armor, 3 and double white for an artifact equipment, equip cost of 3. With when this ETBs, you create a 1/1 white soldier creature token and you attach this equipment to it. The equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has flying and vigilance. Okay, so Comes in, you get a 1/1 that becomes a 4/4 flying vigilance. Not too shabby. Honestly, it doesn't do a whole lot. It's just stats and abilities. Equip cost is 3, so it's not the worst thing, but it is 5 to play. It's best that it does come in attached to something so that it's actually worthwhile with it, but it doesn't have haste. That's the only thing. So it's decent, not the most amazing equipment, but it's decent. Queen Mother Ramonda, 3 and double white for a 3/5 legendary human noble with when she ETBs, you become the monarch. So looks like there's multiple ways to become the monarch with this. And as long as you're the monarch, creatures with power 2 or less can't attack you. So, if your opponent has a lot of small go wide board, well, you're going to prevent them from attacking you with this, which is really, really nice. That's always a good one to be had with it. Some sort of protection effect there. And again, more ways to get the monarch. Royal Talon Fighter Jet, X and double white for a 1/1 artifact vehicle, crew cost 2. So got to tap 2 power in order for it to make it become a creature with flying. And this vehicle enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, so it becomes bigger the more mana that you sink into it. And whenever this vehicle enters or attacks, you create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So a very, very good one to be able to put out there with all of the vibranium that you're hopefully getting out there, because maybe you don't have a lot of artifacts in your hand, and you can sink a whole lot of that mana into this if you can't do anything else with it. So getting out there with 5 +1/+1 counters on it, it ETBs, you get 5 1/1s as well. So that's the thing, the more mana that you put into this, the more value that you just get in general. The Spear of Bashenga. So this must be some sort of important weapon from probably the beginning of the timeline for Wakanda. 4 and a white for a legendary artifact equipment, equip cost of 2. When the Spear of Bashenga enters, if there is no monarch, you become the monarch. So another good way to make it enter. Make the monarch appear in this. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. And whenever the equipped creature attacks the monarch, you destroy target tapped non-land permanent that player controls. Very, very interesting. So no monarch in play, you become the monarch. If someone else is able to get it from you, you can attack in and destroy any tapped non-land permanent that they control. So it's a little bit of a, not combat, just destruction spell on it. That's also pretty nice. Like, I prefer this one over the Midnight Angel Armor or whatever that other equipment was called. This is a better one than that. Ancestral Communion, where T'Challa is speaking with T'Chaka, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of the other former Black Panthers present. 1 and a green for a sorcery. When you cast a spell while you control your commander, you copy this spell, and you may choose a new target for the copy. Return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, just nice little easy one there. Definitely want to do it with your commander out, getting extra value for it. Just being able to get some sort of Eternal Witness there is always a nice one. Fight for the Throne. This might be the Killmonger Black Panther fight that was portrayed in the movies, or it could be another challenger against T'Challa. 1 and a green for an instant. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then it fights target creature and opponent controls, and when the creature and opponent controls dies this turn, if you control your commander, you become the monarch. Yeah, more ways to become the monarch. A fight spell on top of it there. So, Prey Upon, I think, is just 1 green mana, but you're also putting a +1/+1 counter on something. You're not just making things fight. So, you're getting something free out of it. The +1/+1 counter is either the one, it is essentially it's the green is the fight spell, and the extra 1 is getting a +1/+1 counter and becoming the monarch. Honestly, I think it's an upgrade to a lot of these fight spells. So that one's nice as well. M'Baku, Jabari Chieftain, not to be confused with his original name, which was not great. So we will definitely take this version of him instead. 1 in double green for a 4/3 legendary human noble warrior. Beginning of your end step, if there is no monarch, target opponent becomes the monarch, because, you know, T'Challa was always the monarch there. So, you know, he is always challenging the monarch if in that case. Whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents, if that player is the monarch, that creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So incentive for your opponents to get monarch so that you're able to make your own things more powerful and gain trample. Yeah. Nakia, Wakandan operative, the spouse of T'Challa in the movies. 2 and a green, 3/3, legendary human warrior hero with reach. Whenever your commander ETBs, you become the monarch. So very simple there, because, I mean, you're either, you know, the standard in this deck is either Shuri or T'Challa, and so either of them comes in, it's like, well, yeah, they're the monarch. So that makes sense. You can also pay 2 and tap this to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature or vehicle. Activate only as a sorcery. So that's fine. You know, getting some extra +1/+1 counters out there is nice, but as we saw with the Quandakanda, the jet that was there with the X and double white, it can crew for 2. So this could crew it, but you can spend the mana, put some extra +1/+1s on it, so when it does attack by crewing it with a different creature, you get more 1/1s out of it. There's got to be some sort of benefit for getting these +1/+1s out instead of just making something slightly bigger for 2 mana. Wakabi, Shield of the Nation. I believe this was the guy that was supporting Killmonger in the first Black Panther film, because I see the rhinos. 1 and a green for a 2/3 legendary human warrior hero with vigilance. Whenever you attack with your commander, if you control an artifact with mana value 4 or greater, you create a 4/4 green rhino creature token with trample. Now this one is a lot better. All you need to do is attack with your commander and control a high mana value artifact, and you get free large tokens there. You know, I would say a bit better, I think, than Nakia. You know, 1 less power, but it's also 1 less mana to play, and you can get some good value out of that. Wakanda Forever, the name of the deck here. 4 and double green for a sorcery with reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a permanent from among them onto the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. Very nice. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand and put the rest into your graveyard. Very, very nice. You know, looking through, getting some things. Now, one thing that I will say about this that is interesting is a lot of the decks that have some sort of proliferate in it, being able to proliferate the indestructible counter and then being able to move it to other things. In mind, I have the Tidus from Final Fantasy deck being able to proliferate that counter on him and then pass it off to another creature. Sounds pretty nice. But yeah, you know, looking through the top 6 of your things, getting 1 thing onto the battlefield for free with an indestructible counter on it, no matter what its mana value is, yeah, that's pretty nice. Zuri, Warrior of Wakanda. So maybe this is, let's see here, Zuri is a veteran of T'Chaka's army and a mentor to his son. Okay. He is one of the few entrusted to carry the spear of Bashenga, the founder of the Panther tribe. Okay, so we're right. Bashenga was... the Spear of Bashenga was, you know, Bashenga being the founder of their original tribe there. Makes sense. So I guess this is maybe like a man-at-arms, but yeah, a mentor to the future king. 1 and a green, 2/2 legendary human warrior hero with trample, and whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana value 4 or greater, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Very, very nice. Again, we want to see some big artifacts. We haven't seen really any yet. We saw the one with the X spell, but while it's on the field, it doesn't have that 4 mana value. But I believe when you play it, it technically does. So it would get all of that. And Bast, the Panther Goddess. So the Bastet, the Egyptian Panther Goddess, goddess of the cats there, makes sense. 2, a green and a white for a 4/4 legendary cat god with reach, trample, and indestructible. Some nice keywords there. Bast can't attack or block unless you control 3 or more creatures. You know, you got to have someone to worship her in order for her to be able to have some power, very similar to the gods from Theros. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So you attack in with at least one thing, and if you've got a go wide board, you can make that one thing really, really big. Hopefully it's got trample, or they're just going to be able to chump block it. But, you know, this is a good target with it there. Indestructible, can't be removed, and it also has trample to be able to get through it. Okoye, mighty and adored, so another one. So I guess technically Bast can be commander of this deck, so can Okoye. 2, a green and a white for a 3/3 legendary human warrior hero. When Okoye enters, you become the monarch because she's like the captain of the guard, of the king's guard. So makes a whole lot of sense. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever that creature attacks the monarch this turn, it gains double strike and trample until end of turn. So it's getting a whole lot of the same things that M'Baku does, where it's just giving it +1/+1 and trample temporarily. This is giving, but that's for every creature. This is just giving one creature a +1/+1 double strike and trample. So, you know, it's either giving all of the ones that are attacking that player +1/+1 trample, be with all of that temporary, or giving a permanent +1/+1 counter, and then also giving double strike and trample to a single creature. Honestly, could be dealing a whole lot of damage. Shuri, the Black Panther, our other potential face card there that was advertised. A green and a white, so even cheaper than T'Challa, for a 2/3, 1 toughness more, legendary human noble hero with lifelink. Whenever Shuri attacks, you draw a card if you control 3 or more artifacts. Then if you control 6 or more artifacts, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. So I kind of like Shuri a bit more than T'Challa. T'Challa is giving a little bit more in terms of creating more artifact tokens for attacking in. Shuri is letting you draw cards if you have artifacts. It's letting you make your creature stronger, giving a little bit of like a jet mirror effect almost with that +2/+2 if you've got enough artifacts. Yeah, you know, I kind of like Shuri a bit more as the face card, but I mean, you know, the games can run differently. Maybe you do want the extra artifacts there, but at least as far as we've seen so far, I prefer Shuri. And it looks like we're getting Storm. I did not know Storm either marries T'Challa in one of the comics, or potentially maybe she is from Wakanda originally. I know that there's a whole lot of different variations, so I don't know where she could be placed in this, but, you know, we did see Storm as a little bit different colors in our Secret Lair ones that we originally got. But 3, a green and a white for a 4/5 legendary mutant noble hero with flying. And when Storm attacks, until end of turn, another target creature gains flying and +X/+0, where X is Storm's power. Okay, that's nice. Whenever a creature with flying attacks you, Storm deals damage equal to her power to that creature. So a little bit of protection from flying there, which is kind of nice. You know, Storm has 4 power, so the thing has to have more than 4 toughness in order to be able to even get through, let alone facing any sort of wrath from being able to block it since it's already taken enough damage. Even more that we can use as the face card, T'Chaka, Venerable King. Green and a white for a 2/2 legendary human noble hero with when T'Chaka enters, mill 3 cards. Then you may put an artifact or land card from among the milled cards into your hand, and you can pay 3 mana to exile this card from your graveyard to become the monarch. Activate only if you control your commander. So unfortunately, you cannot use that ability if he is your commander, because he would be in your graveyard, and you've got to get rid of him in order to be able to do that. So unfortunately, that one doesn't work, but this first one here, being able to mill things out and being able to put artifacts and lands, just into your hand. I wish they would go onto the battlefield, but he is only 2 mana to play. So if there was like a lot of mass revival in the deck, that might be interesting. Or you play a lot of low powered stuff and get something along the lines of Sun Titan to be able to resurrect things. The heart-shaped herb. Now we're starting to actually get into our artifacts. 4 mana for an artifact with, if a source an opponent controls would deal damage to you, prevent 1 of that damage. So any source, so any type of attacking effect or any sort of pinging effect there, you can prevent 1 of that damage. That's nice. From a lot of those ones like Zulaport Cutthroat, that is just going to be dealing, 1 damage to you for things that die, and it's like, oh, well, it deals 1 damage to me, and then I prevent 1 damage of that. You can pay 2 mana and tap to sack this artifact. If you do, you sack a creature. If you do, return that creature return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with +3/+3 counters on it, and you become the monarch. So you can get rid of something, make it a little bit more powerful on its return, because they're given this to essentially make them the king and make them powerful there. So become the monarch makes a whole lot of sense. Kimoyo Beads, 4 mana for an artifact. So we've gotten 2 4-mana artifacts. That's nice. Beginning of your end step, you choose one that hasn't been chosen. AV Bead, you draw a card. Okay. Communication Bead, you create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Okay. And Prime Bead, you gain 3 life, exile this artifact, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So you get a little bit of a flicker effect. So if you've got something that says, whenever a 4-mana card or artifact comes into play, you get some sort of benefit. That's a really nice one there. You just get that each turn. Also, Nayami class Mothership, 6 mana for a 5/7 vehicle, artifact vehicle with crew 3. Not that big of a crew cost. For a flying vigilance haste, so you can attack within the turn you put it down, and whenever this vehicle deals combat damage to a player, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a permanent, you may put it on the battlefield. If you don't put it on the battlefield, you put it in your hand. Very, very nice. Being able to swing in, get a little bit of damage, and then you get either the top card is going on the battlefield or it goes into your hand. Either way, that's very nice. This is a really good artifact. Panther Habit, 4 mana for an artifact equipment. All of these have been 4 mana or more, which is great. Artifact equipment, equip cost of 2. If equipped, a creature would be dealt damage, prevent that damage, and put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So it gives a little bit of that, what's that one? I think it's like Brawn that does that sort of effect there. So getting that on an equipment seems kind of nifty. I would definitely take more of those. A Panther Robot. Oh boy. 10 mana for an 8/8 artifact creature cat robot with affinity for artifacts, so it costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, reach, and trample, which is honestly very nice. If you're playing a whole lot of artifacts, maybe you've gotten a whole lot of the Vibranium from swinging in with T'Challa. This could be potentially 0 because it can go down to 0. Honestly, pretty nice in an artifact deck. That an 8/8 for 0 mana, yeah, that's pretty darn good. I'd definitely take more of those. Shuri's Fabricator, 4 mana for an artifact with, when this ETBs, you create 2 tapped Vibranium tokens, and for 6 mana, you can tap and return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. Honestly, that's a pretty good one as well. Paying 6 mana, get something that is pretty good back. Gets the finality counter, but that's, if they've already gotten rid of it once, it's probably they've used up enough removal to maybe not do it again. And a Vibranium Mining Mech, 4 mana for a 6/6 artifact vehicle with crew 2 and trample. When this ETBs or attacks, you create a tapped Vibranium token. And you can pay 2 mana for this vehicle to get +1/+0 until end of turn. So the big thing that I am reading there with the Vibranium, it says this mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Now the thing is, you can use that mana, that colorless mana, to do other things. mainly activate activated abilities. It does not restrict you using it on activated abilities. So you can use it on this to get the 2 mana in to make it a bit more powerful for this turn if you've got the extra Vibranium. But additionally, any of these other ones that have activated abilities that are not artifact creatures or artifacts in general, you can still spend the mana to do it. It's as long as you're not casting non-artifact spells, which is nice. Vibranium Strike Gauntlets, 4 mana for artifact equipment, equipped cost of 3 with Flash. When this ETBs, attach it to target creature you control. We always like that. We like it just equipping in upon entry. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample, and whenever this deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So very much a combat trick initially. You swing in, having not paid any of your mana. They either block or they don't block, and you pay the 4 mana to have this come in, gets attached to your creature, gets bigger, gets trample, so it might deal some damage over a chump blocker, and then you get to draw a card. Kind of nice. I like it. The Great Mound, a land that looks like a hand trying to encompass maybe some of the city, the main city of Wakanda. Land that taps for just a colorless. You can also pay 3 and tap this to create a Vibranium. So a tapped Vibranium, so 4 mana essentially to do that, or you can pay 6 and tap this, so essentially 7 mana to draw a card. Now, again, if you've got a lot of Vibranium that you've already made, you can instead use that Vibranium to do these effects. Again, don't need to be on an artifact. This isn't an artifact, so that's a nifty one. Divine Visitation. Oh my, this looks a little bit like the Amonkhet, like Hour of Devastation, the eternalized zombies coming to get you. 3 and double white for an enchantment. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. Okay, so if you've got enough Vibranium tokens... Oh no, this is specifically creature tokens. It's not just tokens in general. Okay, creature tokens. I didn't see a whole lot of creature token generation, so we'll have to see... Because, I mean, you kind of need that in order to make this effective. But yeah, essentially making Sarah Angels whenever you would make something, especially if... Oh, no, we did see with... what was it there? This... where was it? It was the jet. Yeah, the Royal Talon jet. If that has some on it and you get this Divine Visitation out, you attack in with 5 things on it, you get 5 4/4 flying angels. That is going to hurt. Yeah. If you set up around this can be really, really good. Royal Retainers, very nice as well. A nice reprint. 2 and a white for a 1/1 human advisor. Sack this creature to return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only during your turn before attackers are declared. Honestly, very, very good. Getting any legendary creature back is fantastic. You know, if you've already spent a whole lot of mana in order to do your commander and you've cast it from the command zone so many times, you can instead just let it to go to the graveyard if it dies and then be able to just play this out and be like, yeah, you know, I play my commander for 3 this time. Martial Coup, X and double white for sorcery, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. So that really helps out with the Divine Visitation. So maybe we're going to get a whole lot more token generation in the reprints here. Vanquish the Horde, 6 double white, sorcery, costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, destroy all creatures. So 2 board wipes. Birds of Paradise, always a nice one for an inclusion. I like this artwork of it. Nice crane. Green mana for a 0/1 bird with flying. Taps to add 1 mana of any color. A little bit of good mana, fixing a little bit of mana ramp there. Conduit of Worlds. Okay, I like that. 2 double green artifact. You may play lands from your graveyard. You can tap to choose target non-land permanent in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Also kind of a nifty one there as well. You know, you've got the Crucible of Worlds effect where it can play lands from your graveyard. And then, you know, if you don't have a whole lot of stuff to do, you can tap this to be able to cast something from your graveyard. That's always a nice one as well. You can only activate this as a sorcery, so unfortunately you can't do this on other players' turns. So if you've got all instant speed interaction that you can play on your opponent's turn, yeah, do this, get your one thing that you really, really want from your graveyard back out. Seems kind of nice. Greater Good, 2 and double green for an enchantment. Sack a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then discard 3 cards. So, not something that you want to be sacrificing your little 1/1s for, because, you draw 1 card and then discard 3. It's not worth it there. So you got to get rid of something that's a little bit on the bigger side to be able to do this. But maybe, you get rid of one of your big things there, so you get to draw the card they really need to win. Overwhelming Stampede, 3 and double green for a sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So going to be our good old Craterhoof Behemoth there, just without the effect on a creature. Always a good one there to try to be able to close out games. It's definitely a game ender. Coveted Jewel, always love seeing that. Makes a little bit of a game inside of the game. 6 mana for an artifact. When it ETBs, you draw 3 cards, and you can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color. But whenever one or more creatures in opponent control attack you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of this artifact, and you untap it, so you can then use it for mana yourself. Honestly, just a really, really fun card. It's not the most amazing one there, but being able to pay 6, draw 3, and then be able to use 3 mana afterwards is kind of nice. Even if you want to remove it afterwards, or, if it gets taken by another person. You could also flicker this one if you really wanted to in some way to be able to keep on drawing 3 cards. Gilded Lotus, okay, getting some extra mana ramp here. 5 mana for an artifact that taps to add 3 mana of any one color. Very, very beautiful version of Gilded Lotus. Looks like it's got some nanotechnology that's making the flowers themselves. Very beautiful. Ooh, Helm of the Host as well, in the shape of the Black Panther's hood. That is really, really cool. 4 mana for a legendary artifact equipment. Beginning of combat on your turn, you create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary, and that token gains haste, equipped cost of 5. So it's a lot to be able to do that, but being able to get extra copies of really impactful cards, especially if they have ETB triggers, die triggers, attack triggers there, especially if it has attack triggers, since this has haste. The token gets haste. I really like Helm of the Host, and I really would like to get more of them. I'm glad that I got another copy here. Metalwork Colossus. Ooh, that's another good one there. Another cheap one to be able to play out with your artifacts. 11 mana for a 10/10 artifact creature construct. This costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. Sacrifice 2 artifacts to return this card from your graveyard to your hand, so make it really, really easy to get there. I mean, you get a whole lot of Vibranium that you're making. Sacrifice 2 of those that you might not need because you're already going to make a ton, and you're going to be able to get this out. And even if, you can't do anything, you've got a whole lot of Vibranium to be able to play it. Very, very good one to be able to include in this. Solemn Simulacrum. Okay, looks like we've got Sad Robot that is protecting over Wakanda, though looks more like a statue in this one here. 4 mana for a 2/2 artifact creature golem. ETBs, you search for a basic land, put on the battlefield, tapped, and shuffle. And when it dies, you may draw a card. Yeah. Our very simple Sad Robot that we've seen a ton of times. Always good to get new artworks of them. Trading Post, 4 mana for an artifact with pay 1 and tap this to discard a card to gain 4 life. Pay 1 and tap this to pay 1 life and create an 0/1 white goat creature token. Pay 1 and tap this to sack a creature, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand, which is very nice if you've got some good artifacts in your graveyard. But the big thing here is pay 1 and tap to sack an artifact to draw a card. If you've got a lot of those Vibranium tokens, you don't really need them. Pay 1 mana to draw a card sounds pretty darn good. It's a good way to be able to continuously get more card draw. A little bit of land here. We're going to get Beautiful Promenade, green-white. These are the good ones there from like Battle Bond and whatnot, where getting 2 or more opponents, you get this in as an untapped dual land. So that's always very nice to get more of those. Canopy Vista, another green-white dual land. Fortified Village, another green-white dual land. Razor Verge Thicket, another green-white dual land. Scattered Groves, another green-white dual land. Scavenger Grounds, a desert with tap to add one colorless, or you can pay 2 and tap this to sack a desert, likely itself to exile all graveyards. So a little bit of graveyard hate in and of itself. That's always nice to be able to include in decks. You always want to have at least one card in there with some graveyard hate so that you can get around some of those graveyard decks, because they can be pretty oppressive and fast. So I dig having one of those in there. Sungrass Prairie, it's not a dual land, but it does help, mana fix. Sunpetal Grove, green-white dual land. Throne of the High City, land, taps to add 1 colorless, or you can pay 4 and tap to sack this to become the Monarch, which, if you haven't introduced it at this point here, be able to do that. Or you can do that at instant speed. So if you've got a card that is very effective with you being Monarch at the beginning of your turn, like I think the different courts from Throne of Eldraine, then you get all of those benefits. You activate this instant speed in the end of an opponent's turn right before you, so they become Monarch, get those. Or if you don't think that you're going to be able to attack in, you can become the Monarch, so you can draw that extra card at end of turn. There are different ways to use it. Orbital Vibranium Bomb, which is going to be a copy of Scour Glass. 3 and double white for an artifact that you can tap and sack this artifact to destroy all permanents except for artifacts and lands. Activate only during your upkeep. So a nice little board wipe, and gets rid of all permanents, so except for artifacts and lands. So all creatures get destroyed, all enchantments get destroyed, all planeswalkers, all battles. It hits a whole lot of things, and because there's so many artifacts in here, you're able to keep a few of your own things, which is pretty nice. Wakandan War Panther, which is going to be a copy of Fleecemane Lion. It is probably one of the better monstrosity cards from that Theros block that came around. A little bit better in Commander here. I mean, the big thing is with all of the Vibranium, you can spend that on the monstrosity cost to essentially lower it down to only a green and a white, which is pretty nice. But this is green and a white for a 3/3 cat, which, 2 mana for a 3/3 is pretty good there. I mean, you got a lot of the ones there, Savannah Lions, 1 and a white for a 3/1. This is, instead of a colorless, it's a green, and you get 2 extra toughness. That's pretty good. But monstrosity, 1 for 3 and a green and a white, which again, you get that Vibranium, take out that 3, it's just a green and a white. You put a +1/+1 on it and becomes monstrous. But as long as it's monstrous, it has hexproof and indestructible. So your opponent can't target it and it can't be destroyed. So they got to have some way of exiling without targeting, and that can be difficult. So keeping this out on the battlefield is really, really nice for that. Black Panther Claws, which are going to be a copy of Hammer of Nazan. 4 mana for a legendary artifact equipment, equip cost 4. When it or another equipment you control ETBs, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible. Really, really good in equipment decks there, because you get this one out there, it automatically equips to something that you want, and anytime you put something out onto the battlefield, even if it doesn't have its own equip trigger, it just does it automatically with this. Makes it pretty darn good, especially effective in a Voltron strategy where you're given the Voltron creature indestructible with this, and then any other equipments that you have come out just automatically get equipped. Very, very nice. Panther Idol, copy of Mind's Eye. Ooh, we haven't gotten one of these in a while. 5 mana for an artifact. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you can pay 1 if you do draw a card. Always, always, always a good one there. Just paying 1 mana to draw a card is very good. And it's not whenever they draw their second card or when they draw a card other than the card they draw each turn. If you leave 3 mana up, you are guaranteed to draw 3 cards, one on each of your opponent's turns. Pretty darn good to be able to do that. Skybreaker, Sword of Bashenga. So that's going to be a copy of Sword of the Animist. And, we saw Spear of Bashenga as well. So founder of the tribe, 2 mana for a legendary artifact equipment. Equip cost of 2. They get +1/+1. And whenever that equipped creature attacks, you get to search your library for a basic land card, put in battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Very, very good. Attacking in with a creature, and you get to deck thin by getting a basic land, and, you know, you get to ramp with it as well. You know, Sword of the Animus is a really, really good equipment. Oh, okay, so now we're going to be going down into our non-rares. We got Nature's Lore, 2 and a green sorcery. You get to search for a forest card, goes on the battlefield, and then shuffle. Not tapped, by the way, it just goes onto the battlefield, so you can search up for one of the dual lands that has forest in its title and get that one out. Vibranium Dynamo, copy of Thran Dynamo, taps for 3 colorless mana. You know, really, really good with all of the colorless artifacts that we've got in here. Dispatch, instant that taps a creature, but if you control 3 or more artifacts, you exile that creature instead. Honestly, a very good one because, hey, you know, this deck has a lot of artifacts, so you're likely just going to be exiling things. And exiling for 1 mana is really, really good. It's better than, what would you call it there? The Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares when you have those 3 lands out because they don't get any benefits off of it. Generous Gift, another removal. Destroy a permanent, they get a 3/3 elephant creature token instead, so you get rid of one of their best things, whether, including if it's a land, you can do that as well. But get rid of one of their best things that's giving you a problem, and you give them a 3/3 that has no ability. That's pretty darn good. All right. Some of our other ones here, Ingenious Smith. Okay, I think that this one is... Okay, this must also be a remake because it doesn't have that first one there. So this one is when it ETBs, look at the top 4 cards of the library, reveal an artifact from among them, put in your hand, the rest go on the bottom of your library in random order. Okay, searching for artifacts is nice. Whenever one or more artifacts ETB, you put a +1/+1 on this creature. Activates only once each turn. So, you know, make it a little bit bigger. You're already searching for artifacts there. That's nice. Palace Jailer, okay, we saw this one in our conspiracies. You become the monarch when it ETBs, and when it ETBs, you exile target creature an opponent controls until another opponent becomes the monarch there. So really good, you know, a little bit of a Oblivion Ring effect on there, except instead of removing the Oblivion Ring, it's until you lose monarch. So that includes whenever this goes away, you can become the monarch and this dies, and they still don't get their thing back until someone else becomes the monarch. So, you know, different ways of being good of like, Oblivion Ring is not as easy to remove because you have to have enchantment removal, but, you know, this one here, even if they remove the card that did it, they don't get their thing back. Valorous Stance, you choose one, target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, or you destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. So you can either destroy one of your opponent's big things there, or you can protect one of your creatures there. It's nice. Beast Within, another removal there. Destroy target permanent, can be lands. And they get to get a 3/3 beast token that has no ability again. So, again, gets rid of something that's really good. Harmonize, you just draw 3 cards. Kind of your basic one there. Loyal Guardian, so it is going to be the Rhino that we had that was familiar with the man that generated them. But this one has Lieutenant, which if you've got your commander out, it gives additional effects. So if at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, you get a +1/+1 in each creature you control. So you're making your whole board a bit bigger just by having this out there, which is really nice. Arcane Signet, 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, so mana ramp. Meteor Golem, ETBs, destroy target non-land permanent, and opponent controls is nice. Soul Ring to get more. It's a very, very beautiful one, getting the panther fangs, claws, and the panther's head around as the symbol of the king and power. Really, really, really beautiful version of Soul Ring. Whisper Silk Cloak can't be blocked and has Shroud there. Another good equipment. It is not cost 4 or greater, so, you know, that is something you got to be careful of. Command Tower with the Royal Palace of Wakanda there. Really, really beautiful as well. You know, you got all of the technological advancements of it. You've got that classical African architecture that gets mixed in with it. It's a very beautiful command tower. And Evolving Wilds, a little bit more of the outsides there. Tap to get a basic land. Path of Ancestry, looks like we've got a few different of the heroes there. Captain America, Scarlet Witch, the Hulk, Vision, and we can't see much down the road there, but Ender's Tapped, but it's essentially like a command tower. You get mana of any color in your commander's color identity, but if you cast a creature spell, if it shares a creature type with your commander, you get to scry one, so that would be, what? Heroes, nobles, and humans. Okay. Terramorphic Expanse lets you get a basic land of any type that you need, and we've got all of our basics with some plains here. Looks like maybe this one is where Bucky was, potentially. Some plains, and we're going to be having some forests as well. Looks like this one here is going to be Central Park for Peter Parker, and out in the middle of the jungle for our guys here. So very nice. And yeah, our tokens there, we should have a ton of Vibranium. If we didn't, I would be disappointed. So Vibranium and one of those angels that we saw there. Probably every single one of these front size. Oh no, we got a lot less Vibranium than I thought. Another angel, and the monarch symbol. Okay, yeah. The soldiers that we saw, the goats from the trading post, and it looks like the artwork from the trading post as well, so it fits in real well. More goats, copy, looks like Nick Fury. Interesting. But yep, getting that copy from what we saw with the Helm of the Host. Another copy. The rhinos that we are producing there, the elephants from the Generous Gift, and the beast from the Beast Within. That must be something that's unique to Wakanda, where one of the people just turns into a beast or something, but a decent one. Green-white is not my favorite combination of colors. It's probably towards the bottom of my two-colored combinations there. You know, I prefer blues and blacks in my stuff, and a little bit of red as well in them. So, you know, the green-white is probably one of my least favorite combinations, you know, kind of alongside, like, red and white is also not one of my favorite ones there. You know, green and white to creating a lot of artifacts is a little bit unusual. Generally, that's the red and the blue sort of vibes that you get, or at least in the Esper of white, blue, and red there. So seeing it with green, especially with green, is really unexpected and kind of breaking of the color a little bit, but I think that gives it a little bit more life of being able to bring in this green artifact generation. Okay. Well, let's move on. We're going to be going from green-white to America colors. A little bit of Captain America. Now, I do remember on the... You can do this all day. I thought the quote was, I can do this all day. But I remember on the Secret Lair version of Captain America, they altered up, actually, how his mana pips were, because they aren't generally in this order, as we'll probably see on other ones. But because it is America, they have changed up the color identity to be, I think it's generally like blue, red, white is, I think, generally what Jeskai is, but they change it up to red, white, and blue to symbolize for America, which I think is very flavorful, and I think is, you know, perfect for them to be able to do that. So I give them commendations for, you know, thinking to do that. All right. Now that we know how those open, we can make it a lot easier to pull it out. Okay, so starting off with our titular character, which I don't know who the other one is. We saw Nick Fury on the cover, so I imagine that he is the other one. But we have Captain America Team Leader for a red, a white, and a blue, America colors, or America colors. We get a 3/3 legendary human soldier hero. Whenever another hero you control ETBs, it gains vigilance and haste until end of turn. You put a +1/+1 on that hero and a +1/+1 counter on Captain America. So Cap gets bigger as you get more heroes out. That hero gets bigger is a bit bigger when it comes out, but they also have vigilance and haste as well. It only has vigilance for the one turn, so you do have to be mindful of that. It doesn't get vigilance on future turns, but still, being able to give them the haste for all of those ones that come out is very, very good. Being able to just say, hey, you know, all of my things could potentially come out with haste makes it a very aggressive deck. First one up, we got Avenge. 4 and double white for a sorcery. This costs 2 less to cast. If a player attacked you during their last turn, you destroy all creatures and you gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. Okay, a nice new board wipe. You know, a little bit more expensive than Day of Judgment, but if someone attacked you between your last turn and the current turn, then it becomes Day of Judgment mana for only 4 mana to destroy all creatures, but you gain a life for each creature destroyed this way. So that is a nice benefit on top of it. Next up, we got Falcon and Red Wing. 2 and a white for a 1/2 legendary human bird hero with flying. Whenever Falcon and Red Wing deal combat damage to a player, you create that many 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on Falcon and Red Wing. So very good with Captain America because it ETBs with an additional +1/+1 on it, so it's already a 2/3 that's swinging in with haste. You deal the damage, you get 2 birds on them, and then you put a +1/+1 on it, so then it's a 3/4. So you're attacking in next turn with 3 damage to potentially deal it and get 3 birds there. You know, very, very nice. You know, getting a wide board and making it bigger feels very nice with it. Hercules Olympian Hero, 3 and double white for a 3/3 legendary demigod warrior hero. We haven't really gotten demigods before. We've gotten gods, but not demigod, and that demigod is not going to be god. So that's very interesting. I wonder what other sorts of demigod creatures we're going to get, or if they're going to errata some cards from Theros to be demigods. That would be interesting. 3 double white for... oh, we already went over that. Whenever Hercules attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on him, and he gains indestructible until end of turn. Okay, that's nice. And whenever Hercules is dealt damage for the first time each turn, you put that many +1/+1 counters on him. He must survive the damage to get the counters. So if he's indestructible when he's attacking with it, that's nice as well. Now, if you are able to give him indestructible and you have something like Blasphemous Act come in that does the 13 damage, and that's the first time he's dealt damage, putting 13 +1/+1 counters on him sounds pretty crazy. So I think that there are some strategies you can do with around that. Heroic Return, we got Captain Marvel coming back and trying to stop Thanos. 5 and a white for an instant. This costs 2 less to cast if a creature is attacking you, so it becomes 3 and a white. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If a hero enters this way, it enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on 2 additional +1/+1s on it. So if it enters and it gets +1/+1s, it's saying that it gets more, that you don't have to choose there. So potentially for 4 mana, being able to resurrect the best thing in your graveyard and making it a little bit stronger is kind of nice. Heroic Sacrifice. Looks like, end of endgame there. 1 and a white instant, choose target creature you control until end of turn. All damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control is dealt to the chosen creature instead. When the creature dies this turn, put its counters on up to 1 target creature you control and draw a card. So a little bit of a pariah effect, but being able to do it at instant... I think pariah was instant speed as well, but I think pariah was 2 and a white. So this is power creeping that pariah a little bit. And yeah, I think it's a good one there. Drawing a card if that creature dies, if it's got +1/+1 counters or flying counter or any of those ones there, being able to put them on other guys is pretty nice as well. Methods of the Mighty, the 3 OG Avengers kind of, what do you mean big 3 from the Hulk? 3 and a white for an instant, choose 1 or more, destroy target artifact, destroy target tapped creature, put a +1/+1 on each creature you control. I think that's really nice. There, get in all of those different modes. You don't have to have all of them out there because it's got the 1 or more, so you are able to do this even if one of those is not available to you, which is nice. But yeah, getting a whole lot of things for just, 4 mana, so it's almost like 1 mana, and it's almost like 1 colorless and then 1 extra mana for like a spree, or I guess it's 1 white for the card and then a spree cost for the 3. They are 1 for each mode, which is nice. But yeah, destroying an artifact, Tony Stark deals with a lot of artifacts, makes sense. Thor being kind of the big beater there, destroying a tapped creature. That makes sense. And then, as we saw with Cap, putting the +1/+1s on each creature makes a whole lot of sense. Winter Soldier, Reborn Avenger, 4 and a white for a 3/5 legendary human soldier hero. Whenever it attacks, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to its power from your graveyard to the battlefield. If a soldier entered this way, it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, so reviving, but it has to have mana value less than this power. So get Cap in there, it becomes a 4/6 when it ETBs, be able to do it. I mean, if you've got the that one there with the Captain Marvel on it, the heroic return, to bring this back with 2 additional +1/+1s and get the Cap one on it, so it becomes a 6/7. Being able to bring back things mana value 6 or less whenever you attack seems pretty good there. So getting a lot of +1/+1s on this seems pretty helpful of reviving things. Iron Man, Armored Avenger, 3 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary artifact creature human hero with flying. Whenever you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 on target creature. Okay, draw a lot of cards, make things bigger. Whenever Iron Man attacks, other attacking modified creatures gain flying until end of turn. Very nice. So equipped creatures, things that have auras on them, or only auras you control, and counters, like +1/+1 counters capped as modification. So if you draw a card and you put up the +1/+1 on something that's not Iron Man, that doesn't have flying, it gains flying because it's a modified creature. Jarvis, Earth's Mightiest Butler, 2 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary human advisor. Whenever you cast a hero spell, draw a card. Very, very good support card there. Getting out a, just playing a bunch of heroes, drawing a bunch of extra cards, filling up your hand. That's nice. Professor Hulk, 3 double blue for a 6/6 legendary Gamma scientist hero. So I guess Gamma is a new creature type here as well. Maybe we'll see more of those. With Trample, and whenever Professor Hulk deals combat damage to a player, you draw that many cards. Decent effect there. Big boy, big beater in blue that attacks in, deals the damage, gets some extra cards there. Sure, we like filling up our hand. The Wasp, Winsome Avenger, 1 and a blue, 2/1 legendary human hero with flash and flying. When it ETBs, target hero gains hexproof until end of turn, so a little protection on a stick is nice. Whenever the Wasp attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. Okay, so you can get rid of an annoying blocker as well. That's nice. West Coast Expansion, X and double blue for a sorcery. Draw X cards. If X is 5 or more, you may cast a hero from your hand without paying its mana cost. Ooh, that's very good. Pay 7 mana, you get to draw 5 cards, and then put something, play a hero for free. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. Firebird, Blazing Ranger, 2 and a red for a 1/3 legendary human ranger hero with flying. Whenever it attacks, other attacking creatures get +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Firebird's power. Okay, so go wide board is good, and also making sure that Firebird is big is also very important. So getting those 2 in there to get a very wide board that's attacking very big. Photon, Mighty Marvel, 3 and a red for a 2/4 legendary human hero with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, you add that much mana of any one color. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Okay. So if this gets in and hits your opponent there, you get some extra mana to play around with. Again, making it bigger, you get more mana to play with. Very nice one. She-Hulk, Wallbreaker, 5 and a red, 5/5 legendary Gamma hero. Trample, other heroes you control have Trample. That's always nice, given all of your stuff like that, especially if you're making bigger. Whenever a hero you control becomes blocked, put a +1/+1 on that hero for each creature blocking it. Ooh, that is also nice as well. So a lot of those things that you're like, yeah, I want them to be bigger, they've got Trample, and so if they try to jump, they also make your creature bigger. Yeah, I like that one. Ooh, this is a really, really good one for that heroic return as well, with the whole, return this one from your graveyard to get cave it +2/+2, but then having it be able to block, or your opponent's just like, your creatures don't have good blocks, and when you bring it back, it's just like, but yeah, all of it's only when things you control become blocked. So you'd have to bring it in if you were trying to do some sort of trick and pay the full cost. War Machine, Avenging Arsenal, 4 and a red, 3/5 legendary artifact creature, human hero with flying. Whenever War Machine attacks, attacking modified creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. So going along very well with Tony or Iron Man in that, hey, you know, you've got your modified creatures, well, they all gain flying and double strike. Ha ha ha, isn't that great? Oh boy. Ant-Man, Elusive Avenger, 1, a blue and a red for a 1/2 legendary human rogue hero. Ant-Man can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, and whenever Ant-Man deals combat damage to a player, you create that many treasure tokens. So, you know, he's got his big mode, where he can become giant, and, you know, it becomes giant, then it's like, oh, you know, he deals more damage, get more tokens. Makes a whole lot of sense. Black Widow, Agile Avenger, 1 a red and a white for a 2/2 legendary human spy hero with menace. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on Black Widow and you draw a card. Very nice. You know, they draw some extras, she gets bigger and you get to draw a card as well. A little bit of that Miss Bumbleflower effect almost. I like that. Captain Marvel, Apex Avenger, 5 a red and a white for a 4/4 legendary human Kree warrior. Maybe we will be getting more Krees. Flying, double strike, and indestructible. Big hitter there, I guess. Doesn't need the modified on it. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on another creature, if it's not a Kree, you may put the same number and kind of counters on Captain Marvel. Ooh, that's very good. Put your +1/+1s on things, and this one gets it as well. Yeah, that's a big hitter. Okay, our other face card, Director Nick Fury. Blue, a red, and a white. So I was right, I think. I was right in the color combinations. As you can see, you know, red, white, and blue, but blue, red, and white. It's always this blue, red, and white. So they do it specifically for Captain America cards. 2/4 legendary human spy hero. Hero spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You know, the director being able to make them cost less is nice. Whenever you attack, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a hero from among them, put in your hand. Rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's whenever you attack. So you attack with him, you attack with someone else. You can, you know, try to look for another hero that you can cast cheaper. Very nice. Hawkeye, Avenging Archer. 2 a blue and a red for a 3/4 legendary human archer hero with reach. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, if Hawkeye dealt damage to it this turn, you draw a card, and you can tap Hawkeye to deal 1 damage to any target. So you can try to get rid of something with 1 toughness there to be able to draw a card, or, you know, you're attacking in with this to try to deal it with damage there. Yep, nifty one there of trying to get some extra cards. Love on the Battlefield, 1 a blue and a red for an enchantment. Whenever you attack with exactly 2 creatures, those creatures gain first strike until end of turn, then draw a card. Whenever either of those creatures deal combat damage to a player this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So on the creature that dealt the damage. Okay, you know, incentivizing only attacking with 2 creatures, but giving them first strike and drawing cards and potentially making them bigger. Yeah, we like it. Quicksilver Speedster, 3 a blue and a red for a 3/4 legendary mutant hero with flash, double strike, and haste. You know, flash and the haste on this makes a whole lot of sense. And as long as Quicksilver is tapped, you may cast spells as though they had flash. Ooh. So it becomes a Vidalcan Orrery as long as it's tapped. That's really nice. So attack in with it. It's got the double strike as well. That's a lot of damage. Quicksilver's doing a whole lot of stuff there. I think that this is a pretty darn good card there. You know, maybe a little bit expensive for the 5, but I mean, it does a whole lot with it. You can flash it in to block, and then it gains haste, so you could flash it in on your turn. I mean, and it's got the double strike there. I think that it's really good. Scarlet Witch, Chaotic Avenger, 2 a blue and a red, 3/3 legendary mutant warlock hero with flying. Whenever Scarlet Witch deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 2 cards of your library, then exile them face down. Then you may cast a hero or non-creature spell from among cards exiled with Scarlet Witch without paying its mana cost. Ooh, that's really nice. Sure, you're getting rid of one of them there, but all of the creatures in here, I think, are heroes, so it's it's just along those lines of, okay, you know, if it's a land, you can't use that one there and it's exiled forever. But, you know, potentially just getting something big out for free, that seems really nice. Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings, 1 a white and a blue for a 2/2 legendary human warrior hero with first strike. Whenever you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on Shang-Chi. So it's really, really good with the Iron Man one, where, you know, that also puts a +1/+1 on something whenever you draw. And when the 10th +1/+1 is put on Shang-Chi, you draw 5 cards and gain 5 life. Okay, so incentivizing to put a whole lot on him there to be able to get 5 extra cards, that's kind of nice. Avengers Quinjet, 5 mana for a 4/4 artifact vehicle with crew 3. Flying, whenever it enters or attacks, you choose 1. You may put a hero from your hand on the battlefield for free, or you can return target hero card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can return a hero from your hand 1 turn. That's really, really good, and then put it onto the battlefield free on the next. That's a lot there. If there's some really good heroes that they end up printing, that's going to do a whole lot. Hulkbuster Armor, 4 mana for an legendary artifact equipment. Equip cost of 6, but equipping a hero for only 3. And the equipped creature has base power and toughness 9/9 and has flying. Ooh, make them really, really big there. Yikes. You know, this, it reminds me of like Excalibur or something like that that has the alternate costs of like equipping to a legendary creature or something, and you get some, you know, a different, lower benefit, but it gets something big like that. Kind of dig that one. Jocasta, Automaton Avenger, 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary artifact creature robot hero with flying, and whenever your commander deals combat damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 on her. Nice. Whenever you attack with your commander, if this is in your graveyard, you may return to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Ooh, that's really nice. Because with Captain America, there you attack in with it, and it's like, okay, you know, I attack in with it. Jocasta's in the graveyard, bring it back, tapped and attacking it, ETBs, get the +1/+1. It is tapped and attacking, so it doesn't get the vigilance on it there because it just comes in tapped, but it still gets the +1/+1 counter, and then afterwards, once Captain America does the damage, then it gets another +1/+1 on it, so we get the 4/4. Nice. Vision, Synthesized Avenger, 4 mana for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature robot hero with flying, and whenever the player casts a spell, if it isn't that player's turn, you choose 1. You put a +1/+1 counter on Vision, or Vision phases out, which is honestly really nice. Gives them a little bit of a protection of, you know, someone trying to do a combat trick on your turn. I mean, it's also just whenever it isn't their turn. So if it's not your turn and they're trying to do a combat trick on one of your opponent's turns, you can be like, yeah, I'm going to put a +1/+1 on my Vision. Nice. Okay, some of our reprints here. Austere Command, 4 and double white for a sorcery. Choose 2, destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with mana value 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with mana value 4 or greater. You know, nice board wipes and being able to get rid of the things that you don't want on the board. Bastion Protector, 2 and a white. 3/3 human soldier. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and indestructible. Make your Captain America a little bit bigger. It's nice. It can't be destroyed. Cool. Dismantling Wave, another board wipe. 2 and a white sorcery. For each opponent, destroy up to 1, not a board wipe, but for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. You can cycle it away for 6 and double white, but if you cycle it, you destroy all artifacts and enchantments. I was right, it is a board wipe, but just for artifacts and enchantments, so nice to be able to get that. One thing that we haven't seen so far is any graveyard hate, so we're hoping to see some of that. Folk Hero, 1 and a white, legendary enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, you draw a card. It only activates once a turn, but hey, you know, casting more heroes and you're getting to draw cards for free, that's always nice. Gifted Immortality, 2 and a white for an enchantment aura with enchant creature. Whenever the enchanted creature dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Then you return this to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So potentially keeping them out on the battlefield, but there is a chance if they've got 2 removal effects, they can get rid of that creature. Kindred Discovery, ooh, that's a nice one to get on here. 3 and double blue enchantment. As this ETBs, you choose a creature type. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen type ETBs or attacks, you draw a card. Very, very nice. You can get a whole lot of cards drawn this way with a tribal deck like this. Door of Destiny is another good tribal card. 4 mana for an artifact. ETBs, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on this artifact, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter on this artifact. They can get big really quickly. Metallic Mimic, 2 mana for a 2/1 artifact creature shapeshifter. As a CTBs, you choose a creature type. This creature is the chosen type in addition to its other types, so it's still a hero. And each other creature you control of the chosen type enters with an additional +1/+1 on it. So all your heroes also entering, getting another +1/+1 on it. That's really nice. Tome of Legends, 2 mana for an artifact book. Artifact book. I've never seen that before. I think the original Tome of Legends that we got was not a book. It was just an artifact. This artifact enters with a page counter on it. Whenever your commander enters or attacks, you put a page counter on this artifact, and you can pay 1 and tap this to remove a page counter to draw a card. You know, it's the good old classic of, again, being able to draw a bunch of cards, but I've never seen that before. That must be an errata on it. All right, our lands. Red-white dual land. Blue-red dual land. Add 1 mana of any color an opponent controls can produce. And the Exotic Orchard, it looks like, I think that we will see that this is the Fantascar. So they're going to some sort of otherworldly planet there, and it looks gorgeous, has a ton of colors. It's a very colorful card. Very, very nice. Oh, it looks like it's where the Watcher is. Okay, yeah, very beautiful. Look at that artwork. Blue-red dual land, red-white dual land, white-blue dual land, red-white dual land, white-blue dual land. Plaza of Heroes taps to add colorless. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, but it can only use it to spend to cast a legendary spell. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control, or you can pay 3 and tap to sack the land, and target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So, you know, starting off just tapping for a colorless, but you can do any color you want to spend the legendary spell, and then once you get those legendary spells out there, it taps for any color there, which is nice, and it can protect something at the very end if you don't need any more lands. Port Town, white-blue dual land, Prairie Stream, white-blue dual land, Radiant Summit, red-white dual land, Scavenging Ground. Okay, so we did get this one as well. Get rid of those graveyards there, like that graveyard hate. Blue-red dual land, red-white dual land, blue-red dual land. Raise Repulsor Shields is going to be a copy of Raise the Palisades. Really good here. 4 and a blue, sorcery, choose a creature type, return all creatures that aren't of the chosen type to their owner's hands. So, yeah, it's a board wipe there that gets rid of all of your opponent's creatures, and you get to keep all of yours. This can be a finisher. Thor, Asgard's Avenger, 2 and 2 red for a 4/4 legendary god warrior hero with flying. If another source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1 instead. Always nice there. We like that. I do a lot of those in my Nekusar deck there. Don't think I'll put this one in there, but, you know, good potential one to put it in there if I want to. Oh, this one is going to be in our regular set. Captain Marvel, Spaceborne, 4 and a white for a 4/4 legendary Kree soldier hero, flying in vigilance, cosmic awareness. As long as an opponent has cast a spell this turn, you may cast spells as though they had flash. Very nice. Another way of getting flash out. That's cool. Patriot, Shield Wielder, 1 and a white, 2/2 legendary human hero, 2 and tap. Another target creature you control gets +2/+0 and hexproof until end of turn. A little bit of protection there. That's nice as well. Speed, Young Avenger, 1 and a red, 2/2 legendary mutant hero with haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay 1. When you do, target creature with haste can't be blocked this turn, except by creatures with haste. Okay, so very good with all of this haste. Captain America giving things haste. That's cool. Captain America, Living Legend, 1 a white and a blue, 3/4 legendary human soldier hero with vigilance. Whenever a creature you control becomes tapped during your turn, if it's the first time that creature has become tapped this turn, you untap it. Okay, very cool on that one there. So it can give things pseudo-vigilance. If you've got mana dorks, you can get extra mana for it. That's cool. Avengers Tower, 1 tap to add a colorless. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color, spend it only to cast a hero or activate the ability of a hero source. Again, that's what it would say on the Vibranium if it didn't want, if it would not allow you to spend it on non-artifacts. 4 and tap this to look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a hero from among them, put in your hand, the rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. Hey, that's nice as well. You don't need the mana, or you can activate this at instant speed, so you can be able to search the top of your deck for something if you haven't used up all of your mana. Destroy Evil, 2 and a white instant, choose 1, destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater, or destroy target enchantment. There, yep, be able to get rid of something simple enough. Make your move, another targeted removal spell there. Artifact enchantment or creature with power 4 or greater. Swords to Plowshares, again, more targeted removal. Arcane Denial, a little bit of a counter spell there that lets you draw an extra card afterwards. I dig this one a lot because it's got Doctor Strange on it, Doctor Strange being my favorite Marvel hero. Reconnaissance Mission, creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. More card draw effects there is nice. Rip Apart, some more removal. It either deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker or destroys an artifact or enchantment. Nice removal there. Arcane Signet, getting a little bit of mana there. Hero's Blade, makes something a little bit bigger. Equipment +3/+2. Whenever a legendary creature you control ETBs, you can just put this onto it there as well. Okay. Relic of Legends lets you tap for mana of any color, and you can tap and untap a legendary creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So all of your legendary creatures become mana dorks, is nice. Soul Ring is going to be Captain America's, not Captain America's, why did I say that? The Soul Ring is going to be Iron Man's battery that's keeping his heart going from all the shrapnel there. I do like the Black Panther one a little bit better. I can't remember because I feel like we might have gotten a Soul Ring similar to this in that Marvel Secret Lair. Maybe not. I know that we got Arcane Signet as Earth's mightiest symbol, but I don't know about this. Talisman of Conviction, taps for red or white. Talisman of Progress, taps for white or blue. Talisman of Creativity, taps for blue or red. Thought Vessel, no maximum hand size, can tap for a colorless. Command Tower is going to be, looks like some sort of base for shield. It talks about Triskelion, which is something that we have as a as a magic card. Mystic Monastery taps for any of the any colors. Path of Ancestry, we saw this one again, taps for one of any of the colors. Secluded Courtyard can spend mana of any color to cast the chosen creature type. Unclaimed Territory, same thing. Choose your creature type, can tap for 1 mana of any of that to cast creatures, spells of the chosen type. Felwar Stone as Shield Spy Satellite to be able to produce 1 mana of any color that your opponents can produce. Avengers Monitoring Station, which is a Herald's Horn, another really good one there. Choose a creature type. Those creature spells cost 1 less to cast. Look at the top card of your library at the beginning of your upkeep. If it's a creature of the chosen type, you get to reveal it and put in your hand, so you get to effectively have an extra draw is nice. Rescue Pepper Potts, 1 in a blue, 2/1 legendary artifact creature human hero with flash and flying. When it ETBs, return up to 1 other target artifact or creature you control to its owner's hand. If it was an artifact, you put a +1/+1 on rescue, which is nice. Be able to save something by returning it to your hand makes this a little bit bigger. Okay. And then we got all of our lands. We got the same sort of plains that we had before. The islands that we have is going to be of Atlantis there, and it looks like some sort of monastic base as well. Okay. And mountains, we got some sort of temples or something up there, and it looks like we've got out in the middle of the not the Badlands, but with all of those different, like Monument Valley in the U.S. There, okay. And birds for our falcon and red hawk or something like that. Get some extra birds, get some treasures, which is just going to be some booty, it looks like. Lots of birds, a lot more bird. The birds was only on one card, and we're getting so many of them, but we had only like 3 vibranium. That doesn't make much sense to me. So many birds and so many treasures. Is it because that those were the only things that I could produce? It was literally just birds and treasures. Okay. I wasn't really expecting that. Okay, time to go on to my favorite 3-color combination here. Doom Prevails, and it looks like we're getting both a Doctor Doom, very key here for Avengers Doomsday coming out, and we have Loki, one of the favorites from the MCU as well, with his TV show and whatnot. To the victor go the spoils. I would hope that there would be some treasures in this there if they're going to be talking about that. All right, get all of this away. Okay, we do have Doom and Loki on both sides of the Commander deck box there. Okay, is this going to make it easy for me to open up? I really hope so. Ooh, not like that. There we go. Come on, you can do it. Wow. There was absolutely no perforation there, and that opened up so strangely. I don't know, that kind of gave me a little bit, not chills, but like a little bit of an ick. All right, what do we have for our villains? Is this going to be Villain Tribal? Dr. Doom, King of Latveria. 1, a blue, a black, and a red for a 3/3 legendary human noble villain. Whenever you discard 1 or more land cards, each opponent loses 2. So it looks like you want to discard some lands, so maybe some discard deck. We got a lot of cards for discards. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target villain you control gains menace until the end of turn, and it connives. Okay, a little bit of conniving there. Draw and discarding, potentially make them a little bit bigger, but menace is fine there. Okay, yeah. Molecule Man, I think that I have seen from people that this is a pretty darn good one. 6 mana for a 5/5 legendary human villain. Non-land cards in your hand have Miracle 0. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. So Miracle, as it says here, you may cast a card for its Miracle cost when you draw it if it's the first card you've drawn this turn. Yeah, so like just make sure if you can like stack your deck or you scry and you know what you're going to be picking up there. Oh my. Yeah. Being able to play like all of your stuff for 0, like if it's the first thing you've drawn this turn. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. Yeah, Molecule Man is very good. I hope to get some more of him. That would be really nice. Extract Power, 5 and a blue for a sorcery. Look at the top card of each player's library, then exile those cards face down. You may play them without paying their mana cost for as long as they remain exiled. Ooh, that's very nice. A little bit more of that theft effect there. Good to get more of those, and it looks like we've got Dr. Doom taking the Power Cosmic out of the Silver Surfer there. Because I think that there was like Emperor Doom or something had the Power Cosmic. But yeah, I'd dig it if I got more copies of these as well for those types of theft decks. Glorious Purpose, 1 and a blue. Enchantment Plan, whenever a creature you control connives. Okay, so good with the Doom. You put a +1/+1 on that creature and a plan counter on this. When the 6th plan counter is put on this enchantment, you sacrifice it. If you do, exile the top 4 cards of your library. You may cast any number of spells from among them without paying their mana cost. The rest go into your hand. Honestly, not that bad either. Enchantment Plan. We haven't had plans before, so we saw the book thing. So I wonder if we're going to be starting to get more things that have books and plans in them, because those are things I haven't seen before. Helmut Zemo, Mastermind from Hydra. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary human noble villain. Whenever Helmut Zemo attacks, you may cast target instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to his power from your graveyard. If that spell would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. You may cast a spell this. If you cast a spell this way, put a +1/+1 counter on Helmut Zero. Okay. Being able to get a little bit of a flashback on things for instant and sorceries is kind of nice. I dig it. You know, giving all of your instant and sorceries flashback as long as he attacks. Cool. I wonder, you may cast target instant. I wonder if the sorcery spells can get around timing restrictions there, because it says as you attack, you may cast an instant or sorcery. So I think that the sorcery spells can get around casting costs with that. That would be interesting. The Kang Dynasty, rip Jonathan Majors, and, you know, all of the, I don't know if it was ever, you know, solidified or if it was still just accusations of the abuse there. But yeah, you know, like not being able to get the Kang movies is definitely going to hurt. 3 and a blue for a saga with as it ETBs. For each opponent, tap up to 1 target creature they control. You goad those creatures until your next turn. Whenever any of those creatures deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card, and you do it on the first upkeep after you've played this as well. And then on the turn before you sack it, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each card in your hand and can't be blocked this turn, so you can deal a lot of damage to one person with it. Okay, that's very nice. Age of Ultron. So it looks like we're getting a few sagas in this one. 4 and a black for when it ETBs. For each opponent, you destroy up to 1 target non-artifact creature that player controls. Makes sense. You know, Ultron's trying to get rid of the fleshies. First upkeep afterward, for each opponent, you create a 2/2 colorless robot villain artifact creature token. And on the upkeep prior to sacking it, artifact creatures you control gain Death Touch until end turn, and you put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. So you got a lot of artifact creatures. You're making them really big. Damocles base Sword of Kang. So looks like we've got Kang's mothership maybe. 4 and a black for a 5/5 legendary artifact vehicle with crew 3. Flying and Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they face a villainous choice. Ooh, I love me some villainous choices. And we also have Illusion of Choice, so we get to choose it. They either sacrifice a non-token creature of their choice, or they lose 2 life and you draw 2 cards. So it's not you lose 2 life and draw 2 cards. It's they lose 2 life and you get to draw. Oh boy. Yeah, that's fun. They either have to sack one of their creatures. Now it would be really good if you had something like Turgid to go along with this, to be like, oh, you know, you're sacking your creatures there. Well, I get to keep them there, or you lose 2 life and I draw 2. Really nice vehicle there. I dig that one. Endless Ranks of Hydra. 3 and a black sorcery. For each opponent, you create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace. Okay, so create a bunch of tokens. Whenever your commander enters or attacks, you may pay 1 in black. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so you can play it again, get more villains. So really good sacrifice fodder if you need to sacrifice a card. Oh no, it's a sorcery. It's not an enchantment. Why did I think it was an enchantment? Yeah, you know, that's good. Being able to just recur it there, get more creatures to help for a go wide board is cool. The Frightful Four, not the Fantastic Four, but the Frightful Four, for 3 and a black 4/4 legendary creature villain with menace. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, that player loses life equal to its mana value. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Punishing them for casting non-creature spells. Now, if only you could put this in like a Rook Thar deck, that would be cool as well. Ironmonger, Sadistic Tycoon, first villain that we saw for Iron Man. So the first villain for the MCU as well. 2 and a black, 2/2 legendary artifact creature human villain with flying. Whenever a creature you control connives, you put a +1/+1 on each villain you control. Ooh. So yeah, get a lot more conniving in the decks there to get more +1/+1s and things. Claw, Master of Sound, 2 and a black for a 3/3 legendary elemental rogue villain with Death Touch. And whenever you play a card from exile, Claw gains indestructible until end of turn. And whenever Claw deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, Exile it face down. You may play it for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Okay. So a little bit more of that theft stuff to be able to do that. A lot of those ones there, like Atali and whatnot, let you... And it says whenever you play a card from exile, so you can be playing it or you can be casting it there. That's really good there. It just gains indestructible until end of turn, so I guess it's not the most overpowered, busted thing. But yeah, dealing the combat damage and getting to steal some of their stuff is good. I'd like some extra, again, for the theft decks. Abomination, World Ravager, 7 in a red, 10/10, legendary Gamma Berserker villain. Some more Gamma here. Menace and Trample, but it has Mayhem. Ooh, we're getting more Mayhem like we did from the TMNT... No, not TMNT, from the Spider-Man ones there. So 10/10 Menace and Trampler for 4 and a red. So it's really good with the conniving there. Because technically conniving is discarding a card. Ooh, very good one there. Yeah, I'll have to potentially look that for some of those other ones like the Green Goblin deck or my Angie Falconroth. Batrock the Leaper, 1 in a red, 2/2 legendary human villain with multi-kicker 2. I mean, the Leaper doing stuff with legs, multi-kicker makes sense. Enters with a +1/+1 on him for each time he was kicked. When he enters, he deals damage equal to his power to each of up to X targets, where X is the number of times he was kicked. Okay, that's cool. Okay. Killmonger, Ruthless Usurper, 2 and a red for a 3/3 legendary human villain with trample. Whenever it attacks, he gets +1/+0 for each artifact defending player controls. Very good going into the T'Challa deck. Whenever Killmonger deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices an artifact of their choice and you create a treasure token. Nice. They have to sacrifice an artifact there, so if they only have like a soul ring or something, make them sacrifice it. That's nice. Lady Loki, Agent of Chaos, 5 in a red for a 5/5 legendary god sorcerer villain. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery or villain spell each turn, exile it, then exile a card from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. Lady Loki deals damage to each opponent equal to the difference between the spell's mana value and that non-land card's mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. That's so good there. Potentially dealing some extra damage, being able to just cast a spell for free afterwards. Ooh, and that kind of, chaos effect there. I dig it. Maybe just make a whole chaos deck there. That would be cool. Living Laser, 4 and a red for a 4/4 legendary elemental villain with haste. Whenever it attacks, for each card you've discarded this turn, you create a token that's a copy of Living Laser, except the token isn't legendary. The token enters tapped and attacking. Exile the tokens at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, so another very, very good one for discard decks there. And, conniving in this one. I dig that one. Yeah, that one's pretty cool too. I'd like to get some extra copies of that one. Loki's Scepter, 2 in a red, legendary artifact. Whenever it enters, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it until end of turn. It becomes a villain in addition to its other types. Gains haste, and then becomes a mana rock afterwards. Okay, not too bad. I dig it. Puppet Master, String Puller, 2 in a red, 2/4 legendary human artificer villain. Whenever you attack, goad target creature and opponent controls. It can't block this turn, so it has to attack another person there, and it can't block, so you get rid of a pesky blocker. Whenever one or more goaded creatures deal combat damage to one of your opponents, you create a treasure token. Okay, that's really good. I'd like to get some extra ones of this for a goad deck that I'd like to put together. Stiltman, Towering Terror. Oh, some of the ridiculous villains. 2 in a red for a 4/2 legendary human rogue villain with reach. Whenever one or more villains you control deal combat damage to a player, gain control of target non-creature, non-land permanent that player controls until the end of your next turn. It gains this permanent can't be sacrificed until the end of your next turn. So you can't use it to grab one of their things and sacrifice it out of nowhere there. But yeah, being able to steal one of their things is nice, especially if it's like a mana rock or something, to help out with all of your stuff or any sorts of triggers. Titania, Proud Pummeler, 3 in a red for a 3/3 legendary human villain with first strike and melee. Melee is good. Other creatures you control also have melee. Ooh. Okay, so getting a whole lot of extra damage off of there is pretty good too. Arch Nemesis, 1 a blue and a black for an enchantment aura. Enchant an opponent. Whenever you attack enchanted player, they lose 2 life, and then you get to draw 2 cards and gain 2 life. Whenever a player attacks you, you may attach this aura to that player. Okay, so you can, if someone attacks you, you can be like, well, you're my Arch Nemesis now. That's interesting, but name is also redundant because a nemesis is just already your arch enemy, so it's like an arch enemy. Weird. Kang Prime. Okay, so the original Kang, or the most powerful one. 3 a blue and a black for a 3/5 legendary human villain. With flying, whenever Kang Prime enters or attacks, exile a card from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You put 2 time counters on it. If it doesn't have a suspend, it gains suspend. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter, and when the last is removed, you cast it without paying its mana cost. If it's a creature, it gains haste. So yeah, being able to cast a whole lot of things for free just with time counters, it's a pretty good one there as well. I could see myself building some things around that. And our other face card, Loki the Deceiver. 1 a blue, a black, and a red for a 4/4 legendary god sorcerer villain. With whenever it attacks, create a tapped and an attacking token that's a copy of another target villain you control, except it isn't legendary. It's an illusion in addition to its other types. Sack it at the beginning of your next end step, and whenever 1 or more villains you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Hey, another interesting one there. You know, being able to make token copies of some of your best things, get some attack triggers, ETB triggers, leave the battlefield triggers. Sacking is a die trigger as well, so it's not an exile like we saw with one of the other ones previously, so that's also good. Also, Red Ghost, Intangible Genius, 2 a blue and a red for a 2/3 legendary human scientist villain, Ward 2. Red Ghost can't be blocked. Okay, so attack in without impunity. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 3/3 red ape villain creature token with haste. Okay, so for whatever reason you draw some extra cards, like with Connive, then you get an extra an extra creature token. Okay. The Squadron Sinister. 5 a blue and a red for a 5/5 legendary human villain with flying and haste. Other villains you control get +2/+2, have flying and haste. Nice. And Mayhem, 3 a blue and a red. Can cast it from your graveyard for that cost if you've discarded it this turn. Okay, another good one there. Sure, we'll absolutely take that. Typhoid Mary, 1 a black and a red for a 3/3 legendary mutant villain. Whenever it attacks, choose 1 at random. If you've discarded a card this turn, you can choose it instead. You can either get Mary, create a treasure token, okay? Typhoid Mary, draw a card, okay? Or Bloody Mary, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay, you know, nice choices altogether. Pick the best one if you've discarded. Ultron Unlimited, 1 a blue and a black for a 2/2 legendary artifact creature robot villain. With flying, whenever it attacks, he connives, okay? And whenever a creature you control connives, including himself, you can pay 1. If you do, you create a 2/2 colorless robot villain artifact creature token. So yeah, extra creature tokens, nice. Doom's Time Platform. Maybe this is from Emperor Doom. 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you attack, exile target non-land card from your graveyard with 2 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. Ooh, that's very nice. This is not an equipment. This is just whenever you attack, this happens. Nice. Tri-Sentinel, Act of Vengeance. 7 mana for a 7/7 legendary artifact creature robot villain with flying, menace, and trample. ETBs for each opponent. It deals 3 damage to up to 1 creature they control. And it's also got an earth, so you can bring it back temporarily for 1 turn before it gets sacrificed, but it gains haste so you can attack in with it. Okay, yeah, and you get that effect as well. Okay, some of our old ones here. Black Market Connections. First main phase, you get to lose 1 life to create a treasure, draw a card by losing 2, or get a token by losing 3. So you can go all in, or you can just get 1. Kindred Dominance, destroy all creatures of the that are not the chosen creature type, so villains, so mass board wipe, one-sided basically. Lethal Scheme has Convoke, so you can make it cheaper there, but you destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then each creature that helped to convoke it then connives. Very, very nice. Toxic Deluge, nice. What do you call it there? Mass board wipe there. Pay X life. All creatures get -X/-X, so it gets around Ward, it gets around Hexproof, it gets around Indestructible there. Really, really good on that one there. Blasphemous Act, good old classic one there. Make it really cheap, deal 13 to each creature. Chaos Warp, targeted removal, like we were talking with Lady Loki there. Shuffles in permanent into their library. They reveal cards from the top. And if it's a permanent, it goes onto the battlefield. And if it's not a permanent, then it just remains on the top. Bedevil, another targeted removal of artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Currency Converter, oh, that's a good one there. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. You may 2, tap, and draw a card, then discard a card, which helps activate it. And you can tap this to put a card exiled with this artifact into your graveyard. If it's a land card, you create a treasure token. If it's a non-land card, you create a 2/2 black rogue creature token. So being able to help potentially get a whole lot of extra stuff based off of things that you get rid of that way. Progenitor's Icon. Choose a creature type, get 1 mana of any color. Next spell of the chosen type you cast can be cast as though it had flash. That's nice. Skull Clamp. Kill one of your little things there. So you equipped it in, it dies, you draw 2 cards. So essentially paying 1 mana, draw 2 cards. For our lands, we got a black-red dual land, blue-black dual land, blue-red dual land, black-red dual land, blue-black dual land. 1 of any color an opponent can play. Blue-black dual land, red-black dual land, blue-red dual land, black-red dual land. Our good desert that gives us a little bit of graveyard hate. Blue-red dual land, black-red dual land, blue-red dual land, blue-black dual land. Loki's copy, Loki's double, which is a copy of Spark Double. Enters of the copy of creature or planeswalker, gets an additional +1/+1 if it's a creature, or an additional loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. But it's not legendary, so you can copy your legendary things, which is nice. Whoops. Lady Loki's manifestation is going to be a Titan of Yara, which is an illusion. Enters, choose a creature type. It's that chosen type in addition to its others. Whenever this enters or attacks, draw a card for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. If you do, discard a card. Oh, that's pretty good to get some extra draws. Baron Strucker, Hydra Overlord. I am running out of battery, so I'm going to go through these really quick. Villain spells cost less. Villain you control ETBs. You can have a connive, only do it once each turn. Okay, that's nice. Moonstone, Harsh Mistress, flying. Whenever you discard a card, can exile it from your graveyard. If you do, till in your turn, you can play that card. That's another really good one, too. Essentially gives everything mayhem. Kang, Temporal Tyrant. Attacks, he connives. Draw your second card each turn. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Okay. Madam Hydra, cast villain spells. You get extra villains. Villainous Hideout, can cast to get mana of any color for villains, can connive on target villain there. Containment Construct, whenever you discard a card, you may exile it from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. Another one there, just essentially giving everything mayhem. Another Chameleon, like we got from Spider-Man, enters a copy, except it's a different one. Propaganda, prevents them from attacking you. Knight's Whispers, draw some extra cards. Siphon Mind, make opponents discard cards, and you draw cards equal to that amount there. Enters, return target villain cards from your graveyard to your hand. All villains cost 1 less, that's good. Withering Torment, destroy target creature or enchantment, removal. Superior Foes of Spider-Man, whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you can exile a top card of your library, so you get an impulse draw there. Vandal Blast, destroy target artifact you don't control. Big thing there. The Overload, get rid of all artifacts you don't control. Prowler, another villain, ETBs, you connive. Terminate, targeted removal. Arcane Signet, Mana Ramp, Patchwork Banner. Choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get a Anthem effect, and you get to tap as a mana rock. Soul Ring as a mana rock there. Looks like Doom is making this one here. I still like the T'Challa one the best. Swiftfoot Boots, give a little bit of protection there and haste and super fast. Talisman of Dominance, you know, blue, black ramp, red, black ramp, command tower, one of any color, Crumbling Necropolis, the Grixis colors, Path of Ancestry, one of each color, Secluded Courtyard. Villains get to tap for any color, Terramorphic Expanse, get a basic land, creature type, get a color of any of that, and then we got all of our basics here as well. Swamps are going to be like Bog, and this looks like maybe Latveria for Doom, and those ones are villains for our 2/1s, and the robot villains for the Ultrons, and we should have other ones. Shapeshifter there for, I can't remember who creates that one, but it looks like we've got a few. Oh, the Black Market connections. Ape villain from that one guy. Copy to help out with some of those. A rogue token and treasures. Rogue and treasures. Alrighty. Okay, so my battery is running a little bit low, and you might see things shift a little bit there. I wanted to check to see if I had enough battery, so I'm just going to try to get through this one really quickly for us. So let's try to do it. Clobbering time. There. And we're going to be getting our last one here. Now, 4-color deck, but I will say the one thing that I am a bit disappointed is that they didn't make it an easy way to choose who is going to be the face commander for this, because it's each of them is, of the Fantastic Four, is going to be one type of color that then uses all of the colors to be able to use the abilities that they get. And it's just like, okay, well, there's no definitive one. So you can play however you want to, but then it's like, oh, I'm shuffling away other ones that could be commanders into the deck, and it just feels a little bit weird. So let us start off with the commanders there of Invisible Woman, 2 and a white, 3/3, legendary human hero, beginning of combat on your turn. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, you get a 0/3 colorless wall creature token with Defender and Reach. And whenever you attack, you may pay 1 red, green, white, or blue, and blue. When you do, target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each creature you control and can't be blocked this turn. So, you know, get creature tokens and potentially make something unblockable. That's nice. Mr. Fantastic, 2 and a blue, 2/4, legendary human scientist hero, vigilance and reach, beginning of combat on your turn. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, you draw a card, and you can pay one of each of the colors to tap to copy target triggered ability you control twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. I really dig that ability. I love my copying effects. Human Torch, 3 and a red, 3/2, legendary human hero, beginning of combat on your turn. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, it gains flying, double strike, and haste. You know, it's the other two that we just saw of Susan Storm and Reed Richards were more support. Well, this is a lot more selfish. It just does stuff for itself. Whenever it attacks, you may pay one of each of the colors. When you do, until in a turn, whenever he deals combat damage to an opponent, he deals that much damage to each other opponent there. So, you know, being able to deal a whole lot of damage to everybody. The Thing, 5 and a green, 5/5, legendary human hero with trample, beginning of combat on your turn. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, you put 4 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever it attacks, you may pay one of each of the colors. If you do, you double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents you control. So this portion right here is selfish, but this one here is also support. But he is the most expensive. So I do like Reed Richards the best of these here, with the drawing the extra cards and for the extra triggered abilities there. And, you know, I do also like this one of the doubling the counters. That's really, really nice of going across everything. Galactus, Devourer of Worlds. So it looks like we're not having themes of artifacts or villains or heroes. We're just getting Fantastic Four stuff, I guess, and 4 colors. 10 mana for a 12/12 legendary elder alien with flying, trample, and indestructible. When it ETBs, you exile target permanent. You know, Devourer of Worlds, get rid of something. Insatiable Hunger, it attacks an opponent with the most life among opponents each combat if able, unless you control a creature named Silver Surfer, Galactus's Herald. So it just it just wanders wildly out there and attacks whatever comes across it. unless you control its Herald, which makes sense. Silver Surfer, Galactus' Herald, 5 mana for a 4/5 legendary alien hero with flying. Whenever it enters, you can search for Galactus Devourer of Worlds, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, until the end of your next turn, target creature attacks that player each combat if able. So you can force one of your opponent's stuff to essentially be goaded, but you get to choose where it's goaded. Invisible Force Field, 1 and a white, instant, up to 4 target permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So, a mini heroic intervention there. And Rebound, get to cast it. If you've cast it from your hand, you exile it. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you get to play it again without playing its mana cost from exile. Ultimate Nullification, 4 and a white for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you sacrifice a legendary creature, you exile all creatures and graveyards, and you put this on the bottom of its owner's library. So it really is a big middle finger to a lot of things there. Goodbye graveyard strategies, and it's a board wipe there. Really, really good. I like that one. Council of Reeds. As we can see, some of them there are really powerful, even getting the Infinity Gauntlets sometimes. 2 and a blue, 2/2, legendary human scientist hero. The legend rule doesn't apply to creatures you control. Always a nice thing to see, so you can do that on all of your stuff. Beginning of combat on your turn. If you cast a non-creature spell this turn, you create a copy of, that's a token copy of Council of Reeds. Yeah, it's nice being able to get a whole bunch of those, get more out there for protection, so if one was removed, you still have another one. Fantastic Elasticity, 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Choose one. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. You can either get rid of one of your opponent's stuff, you can save one of your things, or return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, get to replay it again. And it also has Rebound, so you're able to cast this again beginning of your turn if you've cast it from your hand. Lockjaw, Slobbering Teleporter, 1 and a blue, 1/1, legendary Inhuman Dog hero with Vigilance. Beginning of combat on your turn. If you cast a non-creature spell this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. When you do, it and up to one other target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Very nice, being able to get in, have multiple creatures not be blocked. That's good. I could potentially get another one there and maybe put that into the Ninjutsu Ninja deck there for all of the unblockable cards. Valeria Richards, Precocious, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 legendary human scientist hero. With non-creature spells, you cast cost 1 last to cast. Good, because all of the, face cards there are, looking to cast non-creature spells, so making them cheaper makes it better. Whenever you cast your first non-creature spell each turn, you draw a card, so it gets a little bit of that Reed Richards effect there, but only once each turn instead of, I believe it's just whenever. Or no, just beginning of combat of your turn. So both of them, are just a once a turn type of deal. All right. Alicia Masters, Skilled Sculptor, 1 and a red, 0/4, legendary human artificer. Beginning of combat on your turn. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, you create a treasure token. So still going in that line of cast non-creature spell before your combat. Sense the Good, beginning of your end step, each player gains control of all creatures they own. So beginning of combat, you also have a homeward path effect there. So if you want to give something to someone there, if it's some sort of benefit or whatnot there, you have to do it. It can come back to you. That's nice. Flame On, 4 and a red sorcery. Put X +1/+1s on target creature, where X is the number of non-creature, non-land cards in your graveyard, gains flying until end of turn. Very simple. A little bit of a boosting effect there, and Rebound as well. Franklin Richards, Ascendant, 5 and a red for a 6/6 legendary mutant hero. Beginning of combat on your turn. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, you discover 6. Exile card from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value 6 or less, cast it without paying its mana value, or put in your hand, rest go on to the bottom of the random order. So very, very nice. Get them playing stuff for free. Always good for that. Nova Flame, X, 2 and double red for a sorcery. Put X +1/+1s on target creature you control. Then it deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. So a pseudo board wipe, except you make one of your things really, really big. Goes along the lines with the Human Torch very well. It's clobbering time. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Choose one. Target creature you control deals combat damage. Combat damage. Deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. A little bit of a removal effect there, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. So yeah, a little bit of a removal spell there with Rebound is nice. Medusa, Inhuman Queen. 2 and a green for a 2/2 legendary Inhuman Noble hero with Vigilance and Reach. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 on Medusa. So that's really nice there. This deck is dealing with a whole lot of those non-creature spells before combat, so potentially making her bigger is nice. Black Bolt, Inhuman King. 2, a white and a blue for a 3/3 legendary Inhuman Noble Hero. With flying, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And Lethal Voice, whenever Black Bolt becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you destroy target non-land permanent they control. So if they want to try to remove it there, you get to destroy one of their things first. Very nice. Cosmic Crucible. 4, a green and a blue enchantment, beginning of your first main phase. Add 4 mana in any combination of colors, so you can be able to cast all of their stuff there, but I guess it goes away because it's whenever you attack you do it, so I guess it does fade away first. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Do this only once each turn. Copying stuff for any non-creature spell, I really dig that as well. So I would like to get more of these as well for my copy deck. That would be great. And just getting 4 mana, extra mana each turn, really, really good for that. Crystal, Inhuman Princess. 1, a red and a green for a 2/3 legendary Inhuman Noble Hero with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals X damage to each opponent where X is the number of colors that it was, and you can tap it for a red, green, white, or blue. So this can be a face commander as well. You could just use it as like a mana dork for that there, and you get this extra ability for, and that's not the first one that you do. It's not, only limited to once each turn. It's any time that you cast a non-creature spell, you deal that damage, which is really good. Dragon Man, Reformed Robot. 2, a white and a blue for a star 5 legendary artifact creature dragon robot with flying. Its power is equal to the greatest mana value among non-creature permanents you control and non-creature cards in your graveyard. Okay, and you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cards. Okay, yeah, being able to bring it back whenever you want to just by discarding a card. Very nice. First Family, 2, a green and a blue for an instant. Draw X cards and gain X life, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control and spells you've cast this turn. So 4 mana, potentially draw 4, gain 4. It's a pretty good one there. Even if it's pay 4, draw 3, gain 3, that's still a good deal as well. Namor, Atlantean King. 1, a white and a blue for a 2/2 legendary Merfolk Mutant Noble with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token. And whenever Namor attacks a player who has more life than you, other creatures you control attacking that player get +2/+0 until end of turn. So benefiting to be of a lower life total to make your things a little bit bigger. Cool. Power Pack, something else that can be your face commander. 1, a red, a green, a white, and a blue for a 4/4 legendary human hero with flying, vigilance, trample, and haste. So it looks like we've got maybe flying, vigilance. I don't know where they go there, but whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile target instant or sorcery from your graveyard chosen at random. Beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So being able to cast something for free, that's also nice. But what was that there? At the beginning of your next upkeep. So that would also help with all of these guys here, the real face commanders, because it's like you did cast a non-creature spell. Willie Lumpkin, Postman, white and a blue for a 1/3 legendary human citizen. William Lumpkin can't be blocked. Whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, you draw a card, and that player may draw a card. If they do, that player can't attack you or permanents you control during their next turn. Okay, very nice. A little bit of a, group hug effect there, but with a very specific person that you attack. The Fantastic Car, 3 mana for a 4/4 legendary artifact vehicle. No crew cost, but flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have Fantascar become an artifact creature until end of turn. Okay. Whenever you cast your 4th non-creature spell each turn, you may sacrifice the Fantascar. If you do, you create 4/4 colorless construct artifact creature tokens with flying and haste. Interesting. Okay. So you start off with that, and if you can cast 4, then you get 4/4/4s. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty good one there. Herbie, Lovable Robot, 2 mana for a 1/1 legendary artifact creature robot scout with flying. Beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast a non-creature spell, you surveil 1. Okay, surveil is always good. Free surveil is always good, is even better though. Tap to add a colorless, so mana, mana dork or 1 and tap to add 1 mana of any color, so mana fix on that one. That's also good for this 4 colors. Negative Zone Portal, 2 mana for an artifact, 2 and tap, exile target card from opponent's graveyard. If it's a creature card, draw a card. Graveyard hate and lets you draw cards, that's nice. Beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more creature cards exiled with this artifact, flip a coin. If you lose it, you sack and return a card exiled with it at random to its owner's hand. Okay, interesting. So 1 thing gets back, but you can do this a few times. Okay, if there's a way to... it only works for creatures, so you can get rid of other things as well. Unstable Molecule Suit, 3 mana for an artifact equipment, equipped commander of 2 or equipped cost of 4. Equipped creature gets 2/2 and indestructible. Okay, a little bit of bump and a little bit of protection. Cleansing Nova, okay, reprints, 3 double white, choose 1, destroy all creatures, or destroy all artifacts, enchantments. A little bit of board wipes there. Clever Concealment, so protection, 2 double white, instant, convoke, helps you pay down. Any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. It's really good. Collective Effort, 2 and double white, escalate. You can tap untap creatures to help pay for additional modes. Choose 1 or more, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, destroy target enchantment, or put a +1/+1 on each creature target player controls. Very nice. Monologue Tax, be able to get some extra treasure tokens. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you get a treasure. Nice. Promise of Loyalty, board wipe here. Each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sack the rest. Each of those creatures can attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as a vow counter is on them. Very nice there. They can attack the other players, just not you. So really, really cool board wipe. Tragic Arrogance, another board wipe. Each opponent, you choose from among them permanents, a artifact, a creature, enchantment, and a planeswalker, and they sacrifice all non-land permanents other than those ones. Quantum Misalignment, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it isn't legendary. That's nice. And Rebound, cool. Recurring Insight, draw cards equal to the number of cards in target opponent's hand. That's nice. To get it maxed out, max out your hand size, and you get rebounded, so you get more cards next turn. In the Time Vortex there, 4 and a red, Sorcery Cascade. That's always nice, be able to play free cards there, and you get the rebound effect later on. Cool. Seize the Day, untap target creature. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, and it flashbacks so you can get more combats. Path to Discovery, creature you can roll ETBs, you explore with it, so you reveal the top card of your library, put in your hand if it's a land, otherwise you put a +1/+1 on a creature, on the creature that explored, and you can either put it on top of the library or into the graveyard. Galvanic Iteration, next cast and insert a sorcery, you copy it, I love that, can choose new copies, got flashback, really, really cool one there. Taunt from the Ramparts, goad all creatures your opponents control until next turn they can't block, so you can get in and attack them there and goad them, which is cool. Whirlwind of Thought, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card, always good. Reed Richards had you draw it there, so it makes sense he's on there. Chromatic Lantern, it's a 4-color deck. You want a mana fix, so all lands you control is tapped to add 1 mana of any color, and this is also a mana rock. Mirage Mirror, pay 2 to have it become a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until end of turn to be able to get some good effects. That's always good. Green-white dual land, red-green dual land, red-white dual land, one of any color your opponents can play. Fabled Passage, tap to sack it to get a basic land of any type, enters tapped, but if you control 4 more lands, it comes in untapped. White-blue dual land, green-blue dual land, white-blue dual land, red-white dual land, green-blue dual land, red-green dual land, blue-red dual land, green-blue dual land, red-blue dual land, green-white dual land. The Watcher's Warning is going to be a Mind's Dilation, so an opponent casts their first spell each turn, they exile a top card of their library. If it's a non-land card, you get to cast it without paying its mana cost. Really, really cool one there. I like those ones. Franklin's Finality, which is Annie Joins Up. ETBs deal 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker an opponent's controls. Triggered ability of a legendary creature triggers. It copies that trigger there. Triggers an additional time. Really good. The 5 Arrive is going to be a Genesis Ultimatum. The top 5 cards of your library. Any number of permanents from among them go on the battlefield. The rest go into your hand. Cool. Not the best ultimatum there, but still cool. Terramorphic Expanse, get a basic land. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, reach. Whenever one more tokens enter, you draw a card. Okay. Baxter Building, tap to add a colorless, 4 and tap, add 4 in any combination, so you can mana fix, 4 and tap, draw a card, activate and fuel a creature with toughness 4 or greater. If you don't draw cards, is fine. Bovine Intervention, just targeted removal, they get a 2/2 white ox. Cut a deal, each opponent draws a card. Then you draw a card for each opponent, you draw a card this way, so you get a lot of stuff. A little bit of a group hug effect. Path to Exile, targeted removal, deep analysis, drawing cards, cultivate, some ramp, Farseek, more ramp, Terramorph, more ramp with rebound, 3 visits, more ramp, expressive iteration, kind of pseudo drawing. You get to look at the top 3. 1 goes into your hand, 1 goes to the bottom of your library, and then 1 gets exiled and essentially impulse drawn, which is cool. Hull Breach for targeted removal, Arcane Signet for mana ramp, Lightning Greaves for some protection there and haste, Soul Ring there for the mana ramp. The 4 symbol in the sky, probably from Johnny Storm, making it definitely the T'Challa one is the best. Command Tower, 1 color of any. Search for a basic land, mana of any color. And then we've got some plains, some islands, some mountains, some forests, and we're getting some walls for Sue, some copies, Merfolk from probably Namor there, Council of Reeds for Council of Reeds, more Merfolk, and probably on the back of these, the 4 that you get from the Phantascar, some treasures, and the Ox for the destruction. Okay, so I would say that I like the 2 3-color ones the best. I do like the green that is giving us some artifacts there, and the 4-color one is a little bit all over the place, but it does have a lot of cool triggers and does a whole lot with copying stuff, so I like that. But the blue, black, red is kind of like my favorite color combination, so I think I still have to take that as kind of my favorite deck there. And it deals a lot with the drawing, discarding there, which I've got a few decks around, so I want to be able to continue on with that. But yeah, the Captain America one is interesting with trying to get all the heroes out there, and it's just like a pure beatdown type of deck there. So I don't know which of these 2 I like better. I think I like the T'Challa one the least amount, just because we don't see a whole lot of green-white artifact synergy there, so there probably isn't a whole lot that we can add in there other than colorless things. And there'll be a few like green and white artifacts that we can do, but maybe I would say the 4-color one, even though it's all over the place, I'd grab it as my second favorite because of the copies, but it's close with the Captain America one. But yeah, some interesting decks, and again, it's good to be able to get 4 decks after a 5-deck set instead of going down to 1 or 2. So thanks for joining me on this one. I hope that you have some fun with the Marvel superhero set itself. Please have a lot of luck with whatever it is that you are up to. Please take care of yourself until you come back for another one. Have a good afternoon or evening or night. I'll see you on the next one.